This is Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
Hey everyone, you came back. We're excited to have you. We did everything we could to make sure Corus would not bring us back, but they did. I'm Drew Scott.
I'm Jonathan Scott.
And I'm JD Scott.
We have so much to talk about, especially with it being Emmy weekend. There's a lot of buzz that we want to go over. Also, we have a guest speaker who's going to tell us why smoking in public places is a good thing. But before we get into that, I want to make sure, Jonathan, shut off your cell phone, all right? Quit sending Twitter pics to people. I want you to talk about why kids shouldn't have cell phones. I read a study that in the UK, 1 in 10 children have a cell phone by the time they're 5 years old.
Who are they calling? Who is a 5-year-old child calling?
They're Snapchatting.
Yeah, exactly. I'm concerned.
They're calling their imaginary friends. But seriously, why would a 5-year-old need a phone? Now, granted, maybe there's the GPS tracking, so maybe parents want to have the phone in their bag or something to keep tabs. But are they actually calling friends in the high school class? Like, hey, what are you doing after daycare?
Well, I know how bad Drew is at staring at his phone all day, and he forgets there's a world up above it. But starting them that young, getting them obsessed with technology that young, that can't be a good thing.
Well, I think maybe that is part of what they're doing, is not trying to get them obsessed with it, but they're trying to teach their kids, this is how you use this is how you use a computer, like get them used to it.
Teach their kids how to be antisocial.
Well, yeah. I mean, like it or not, cell phones are an integrated part of our society. You cannot get around that.
Well, that's a good point.
A 5-year-old does not need...
I have seen a 5-year-old cut a video in Windows.
Okay, now I got to say that I was over at one of my buddies' house. He has a little kid. When his kid was 3 years old, I can remember he picked up the cell phone, he unlocked it, he put in the password, he went into the game section and started playing at 3. I was drooling and pooping in my diaper at 3. I wasn't doing anything else.
Still doing that.
Would the kid really know the difference, though, if you gave them one of those talking Elmo phones where when they pick it up, it just says, I like you? I don't think that they would really know the difference.
Now, with cell phones, though, being more accepted in schools, I think that's an important thing. Then their kids are getting used to it because a lot of schools now, they'll have lectures that you can actually follow along on a tablet or on your phone. So maybe that's a reason why they're doing it so young.
Well, yeah, and cell phones are kind of becoming our new laptops. They're fully functional for all the things we would do on a computer.
I guess so. I mean, the thing for me is I know that kids are obsessed with video games. So if they had the video games on their phone, they're going to be obsessed with that. 5-year-olds are starting school. So do they allow them in the classroom? I'd imagine the schools have to have a no cell phone policy, don't they?
Unless they're utilizing. I know one school that was allowing it because they wanted the teacher to have the kids follow along on an app on what they were doing, and so the kids could interact on the screen that he had at the front of the desk. They could interact on an app to
that post. I'm okay with, and I think utilizing technology in education is very important because we are a tech-savvy world. I do remember that there was a school that put out a rule saying, that no cell phones allowed in the school, and then there was a class action lawsuit. The parents all came into the school and said, no, you are not allowed to take my child's right away to communicate with me in case there's an emergency, blah, blah, blah. Well, if there's an emergency, you just call the school. The child doesn't have to have the cell phone to be texting during...
You're living in the past, Mr. Silver.
This is a new age, I would say.
So you think that it's appropriate when someone's trying to facilitate and teach the children, you think it's appropriate when the kid is not paying attention, they're actually texting?
I think that this is how it has always gone. In the history of evolution, new technologies or whatever come along, the schools are afraid to use them at first, they ban them for a while, and then they find a way to utilize them.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, do you think that a child will absorb more information if their face is buried in a cell phone and they're texting, or if they put the cell phone away and then they're listening to the teacher?
I think that the schools and the teachers have to find a way to do that, to teach them that way. Because I was buried in other stuff other than what the teacher was saying.
Matrix download to the spine.
Now, what about kids walking home from school? A lot of parents don't like the idea of kids walking home alone because it can be dangerous. So if you have your cell phone, you have a GPS tracking system on your phone. Do you think that makes it any more safe for kids?
I do agree with that because either I'm going to put a chip in my kid or I'm going to have the cell phone with the GPS tracker.
You did it with your dogs.
Well, I do have the chip in the dogs, yeah.
Yeah, you just chip the child's ear and you're good.
Yeah. You can actually get chips that you can put in your kids now. That a company actually came out with these. I think it was last year or the year before. It's a GPS chip that you put under the skin, and you can go onto a website and track where your child is.
Yeah, but I saw a big backlash from that because there were a bunch of these activists that were saying that's abuse to children. You shouldn't be doing that to children.
Well, there are a lot of things that people will argue no matter what side of the fence that you're on. I don't think the safety part of a child having a phone is a bad thing, but is it necessarily a good thing or a bad thing to have a battery up against your head all the time, starting at the age of 5?
Frying your brain. I saw that on YouTube, that video with the 2 cell phones and it fries an egg. I think it was fake, but you never know. On that same note, though, the expense. I mean, people are spending $200 for a cell phone or more, giving it to a 5-year-old. It's going to be dropped in the sandbox. It's going to get damaged.
Well, yeah, look at how often adults drop phones.
You just made the key statement right there. If you're dropping your technology in a sandbox, you don't need technology. Just play with blocks or whatever we played with.
Well, the beach.
All the fancy toys our parents got us when we were kids, I didn't play with any of that. I played with the box that came with the refrigerator. That was more fun than anything to me at 5.
Oh, because he was simple.
You were.
And I still am. Well, what's the verdict in the end here? JD, do you think kids should be allowed cell phones at that young age?
I think it's kind of going that way, and it has to. So, yes.
Jonathan?
In school, no. I think that I do think that the kids need to have. I actually think they need to have digital desks, and that's a way that they can use technology to integrate. But I don't think that they should be distracted by communicating with people or friends in other classrooms, or maybe kids that are jumping out of school. And
so there have to be some rules of when you can use it, when you should use it. I like teachers that are actually getting on the whole technology side of things, and they're actually utilizing the cell phones. Coming up next, we're going to chat about the Emmys. There is so much happening this Emmy weekend. I'm excited. I'm a film buff. Come right back with us. Make sure to hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Mr. Drew Scott. Jonathan's at Mr. Silver Scott. And JD is at Mr. JD Scott. Tell us what you think about cell phones for 5-year-olds. You're listening to Off Topic on the Corus Radio Network.
This is Off Topic on the Corus Radio Network.
You are back. This is Jonathan Scott.
This is Drew Scott.
And this is JD Scott.
We need to talk television. We're talking Emmys. It's Emmy weekend. And, we do watch a lot of television. We've got our opinions. However, that is nothing in comparison to our guest, Michelle Mahone. She is an entertainment reporter from L.A. Michelle, thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
We want the dirt. We don't want any of this, above board common stuff that you hear on the radio. We want the dirt of what's going on in Hollywood and where you think TV is headed.
Come on, what sucks? What's great? Tell us.
Well, here's what I love. The people at Netflix must be losing their collective minds because they are nominated in 4 different categories. And they're Netflix. They're not even on TV, and they're nominated for Emmys.
How is that fair that, we're on TV and we're not nominated, yet Netflix is? So I've got a bone to pick with Netflix about that.
Well, you know what? They have some heavy hitters when you're partnering up with Kevin Spacey. So I think that's a good
House
thing.
of Cards. I don't know if anyone else has watched that. House of Cards.
Yeah, no.
Very, very good. I have some favorites. I mean, I across the board, I'm very busy. Most of the TV I watch is either on planes or it's in hotel rooms. But I am a Dexter fan. I've been a Dexter fan for quite some time. A friend of mine, Amy Garcia, is on the show. I try to pry stuff out of her to find out where it's going, but she will never tell me. But what do you think? Are your favorite shows out there? And
how about for drama? What are you thinking?
Well, you know what? What's surprising me in the drama category is none of the big 4, ABC, NBC, CBS, or Fox, are even nominated. It's all cable shows, which tells me that people want something a little grittier. So maybe if you guys want nominated for an Emmy, you got to toughen it up a bit. Like
I'm gritty.
Windows. You know what I mean?
I think maybe some full frontal nudity.
More sex. More sex on Property Brothers. I don't know if that'll fly, but maybe we need to do something. I think that actually brings up an interesting point for reality television. Now we're seeing there's been this trend. Reality's been popular for quite some time, but I feel like it's never ending. There are so many shows about absolutely everything out there right now. Who would have known the popularity of a show about a warehouse full of a bunch of rednecks making duck whistles? But apparently that's what everybody wants to watch.
Well, you know what? Being Southern is very on trend right now, and I don't know if you're missing my accent, but I'm all up in it. So I want to get back to the sex on your show here in a little bit because I'm distracted now. But anywho, yes, the thing is with reality shows, they're pretty cheap to produce. Everybody wants to be on TV, and so they're just going to churn those out as long as everyone watches. And the popularity of the Kardashians proves that people truly will watch anything.
Well, if you look at reality competition, now Dancing with the Stars nominated, and that's actually one of Jonathan's favorite shows because, well, also there's So You Think You Can Dance. Now, Jonathan thinks he can dance, but I think he would be on a show that's called I Know You Can't Dance.
Yeah, but I got moves you haven't seen over here. I could, we've been asked a few times, tossed around a little bit, would we do Dancing with the Stars? And I would love to do it. I think it would be incredible. I don't think I have the time to commit to that. And we have friends who are on the cast of the show or who have been on the show, and they said, really, you have to devote a serious amount of time.
Hours.
What do you think of The Taste with Anthony Bourdain? Have you caught that?
Oh, I love Anthony Bourdain. Dude will
eat
anything, so I would love to cook for him. But it cracks me up that Tom Bergeron is nominated for an Emmy, because when he says, let's go to the leaderboard and look at the scores, I'm like, yeah, take us there, Tommy.
But the way he says it, with such conviction.
I get it.
I was going to say, you were saying that reality shows were so inexpensive to produce. I wanted to go back to that for a sec, because obviously we fall into that category. And our budget is so out of whack because of Drew's wardrobe. This man over here, I don't know where you get all this stuff.
You got to look good.
90% of our budget goes toward that.
If you're on a hit show, you got to look good. I'm not worried about Jonathan, but I have to look good.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so, what are some of the upsets that we're seeing out there? Stuff that, is all of a sudden just boom out in the open there, but nobody expected that it was going to have as much attention as it did.
Well, I love that they brought back Arrested Development. That was a really fantastic show, and it got dropped from the air. And now, again, hi, Netflix, they've picked it up, and Jason Bateman is nominated for that. So I would love to see that. And Downtown Abbey, we're getting all cultured here in the U.S. with our British vibe. We don't get out much, so we got to watch.
I love how you stretched it out and said Downtown Abbey instead of Downton Abbey.
Yes.
But it's, if we're talking comedy, what I really love is Girls. Girls was phenomenal. I don't think a lot of people expected this to explode the way it did, but Lena Dunham is absolutely phenomenal. She's hilarious.
Actually, my favorite is Game of Thrones. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. I love the books, and the show is just as good.
It was a great comedy. Oh, wait.
Yeah, great comedy.
I'm confused. Yeah. Personal favorites. I want personal favorites from you, Michelle.
Well, I like Big Bang Theory because it makes me feel smart. I need dictionary.com on that one, though. Very cleverly written. It reminds me of the writing on Frasier, which to this day is still one of my favorite shows.
Jim Parsons is a talent. You got to say that.
Oh, he is amazing.
They crack me up. And that's the thing. That's how I feel, because I feel like Jim Parsons when I'm around Drew and JD, because, I'm just, my sense of humor, everything, I feel like it's so intelligent that it's above them. That's why they don't
What are you
laugh.
saying?
No one else thinks that. But
I'm dumbing everyone down?
Couple last minute wrap up things. Anything you want to tell us before we head out?
Oh, gosh. Let's see. Well, I
love putting you on the spot. You said you wanted to get back to the sex on Property Brothers, so I figured you'd have at least one statement.
Yeah, well, when are you casting for that role?
Yeah, well, we'll let you know. But that's they definitely use the casting couch for that.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I'll make sure that we keep you in consideration for that, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks,
Michelle.
Thanks,
Bye.
Michelle.
Hit us up online and tell us what shows you love. What are your opinions? We want to hear it. I'm at Mr. Silver Scott. We have at Mr. Drew Scott and at Mr. JD Scott, or on our website, thescottbrothers.com. Coming up, we're going to talk to a guest who says you should smoke. I want to know what that's all about, because that just blows my mind. You're listening to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
Now back to Off Topic on the Corus Radio Network.
You're back with JD Scott.
I'm Jonathan Scott.
And I'm Drew Scott.
And right now, we're going to talk about the right to smoke in public places. And a lot of places are starting to institute those bans, where you're not allowed to smoke out front of them.
Well, it started that you weren't allowed to smoke in restaurants, and then you weren't allowed to smoke right at the doors of the restaurants, and now they're saying you can't even smoke outside.
Well, we're bringing in a guest. We've got Christopher Snowdown. He's a freelance journalist based out of the UK, and he's got some opinions on this. Hey, Christopher.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
So what's your thought, Christopher? Give us a little bit of a scoop of what you think about telling people when you're outside in the fresh air, you're in your own space, you're not even allowed to light up a cigarette.
Yes, well, I mean, it seems to me that if you pass a law saying that people who smoke have to go outside to smoke, then you can't really complain when people smoke outside. I'm not sure where else people are supposed to smoke. I suppose the answer from these prohibitionists is deep down they don't want people smoking anywhere at all. And so outdoor smoking bans are just another step up the ladder towards the total prohibition of tobacco.
And so one thing I will point out, so I think some of the things that we see, the statements that are posted, people are saying, well, the reason they don't want people smoking inside is because secondhand smoke, of course, affects other people. So if you're smoking outside and I'm to walk through that secondhand smoke, then it's basically the same effect that I would get inside. I think that's probably why they're saying that. Is that right?
Well, are they saying it's a genuine health issue? I didn't realize that. I thought it was just a nuisance issue. If they're saying it's a health issue, they're just wrong. I mean, there will never be any evidence showing that walking through a waft of tobacco outside is going to have any effect on your health. If tobacco smoke was quite that powerful, then people wouldn't be able to survive smoking a single pack.
So if you're in an enclosed space and there is secondhand smoke, so in a room, and obviously it can build up and it stays in that state, well, I mean, there are a lot of stats that show, yes, that can affect you, but what you're saying is outside where it's in the free air, that doesn't affect you the same way?
Well, the stats on secondhand smoke, I mean, the epidemiology of it is generally based on people living with smokers for 30, 40, or 50 years. And even then, the studies really struggle to find any statistically significant link between passive smoke exposure and lung cancer or heart disease. What link they did find was very, very small. So that's based on decades of living with a smoker in an enclosed space. The idea that you're going to get a heart attack from walking past somebody smoking outdoors is pure hypochondria.
Well, and so I'm looking right now on the CDC website, and the CDC says right on here flat out that any exposure, even brief exposure, is harmful to your health, and there are actually immediate side effects to it. And they state in here, and this isn't talking long-term living with somebody, this is just talking secondhand smoke exposure. Even briefly, they said that there are clear measurable amounts of nicotine in the system. One thing that, is interesting to me is necessarily walking outside through a waft of smoke as bad as the pollution that's coming from the cars? And that's to me the only legitimate argument that I can think of, because yes, I do think that if I breathe in even one lungful of cigarette smoke, it's not going to be good for me.
Well, if you're thinking about in a commercial space outside, you think of all the smoke that's being pumped out from commercial buildings and industrial areas. Yeah, and then you're trying to compare that to cigarette smoke. How do you compare that, Christopher?
Well, look, there are toxins in the air of various kinds. It's all a matter of the degree. The dose is the poison. If you cook a barbecue, even if you just cook in your own kitchen, you are unleashing various different chemicals. If you have a cup of coffee, there's some chemicals coming off the top of the steam. It's a matter of working out where the safe level is. And I know that some people say there is no safe level of secondhand smoke exposure, but that's just a ludicrous thing to say. There is a safe level of everything. What they mean is they haven't identified exactly where the safe level is, but that's rather different. Unfortunately, with the war on smoking, truth goes out the window very quickly. Unfortunately, the result of that is that you have people living in an advanced state of hypochondria bordering on mental illness, where they're worried about walking past somebody who's smoking.
I agree that some people I think maybe take it a little bit too far. For myself, I don't smoke. I don't like being in smoky atmospheres. I don't like the idea of maybe if I'm sitting behind somebody and they're smoking in front of me that it's wafting back. I find it difficult to breathe. People who have respiratory problems, it affects even more. I guess the big question is, Christopher, do you smoke, and how did you get started? Like, do you actually get annoyed when people tell you to butt out?
I don't smoke anymore. I smoked for 20 years. I gave up last year. I just use an e-cigarette now. And I was told when I gave up that I would be becoming one of these ex-smokers who's extremely sensitive to smoke and very anti-smoking. It hasn't happened to me at all. Smoking has never bothered me. I always quite enjoyed the smell of it when I was a child. Obviously enjoyed it when I was a smoker, but I do sympathise with people who do find it a nuisance. And that's all this issue is about. It's a nuisance. And I actually think it's more of a nuisance having people smoking outside a pub or outside an office, which people have to walk through, than it was to have people smoking in a smoking room.
Well, I almost feel it's putting people outside to smoke when they weren't allowed inside anymore. It's almost like a punishment when you have that cold winter and they have to go out there. And maybe this is a way to trick them into stopping smoking. But tell me this, as an ex-smoker, when you walk through secondhand smoke as you're walking into a building or whatnot, do you stop and savor it for a minute? Do you miss it? Tell me honestly, Christopher.
No, not really, actually. No, I can smell a cigar. I quite like the smell of a cigar. I don't understand people who don't, really.
Yeah.
But, no, it neither bothers me nor attracts me. It's just kind of irrelevant, really. But you're right that it's all about humiliating and denormalizing smokers and putting them out in the cold. That's exactly what.
Well, and you bring up one good point in the fact that I think the smoking room, to me, actually did kind of contain it and keep it aside. And that's one thing that, I thought would work. But I don't know. I kind of feel as though if I'm walking by someone and they're forcing me to smoke by breathing in their secondhand smoke, well, they might as well force me to drink by shoving some whiskey down my throat, because I don't want it in my body, and if I don't want it in my body, I don't feel that it should be forced inside.
It'd be a nice thing not to encourage kids. Personally, I like the idea of limiting. I'm a health nut, but thanks for joining us, though, Christopher. Thanks for your side of the argument.
Pleasure.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about a common dating dilemma, the date debate.
The great date debate.
Don't forget to hit us up on social media, at Mr. Drew Scott, at Mr. Silver Scott, and at Mr. JD Scott, or on our website, thescottbrothers.com. This is Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
Now, back to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
We're back. I'm JD.
I am Jonathan.
And I am Drew.
Now, does it matter who pays for dinner on a first date?
I have no opinion because actually there is a rule.
Because
that
you haven't
kind
had
of
a date in a long time?
This is true. I have a kind of rule that I feel like whoever invites the other party should be prepared to pay. That's what I feel.
I have this problem, though, and I do it all the time. It's because my dad does it. I think I inherited the trait. No matter who I'm out with, whether it's a date or just friends, I always end up paying. I don't know why, but I always do.
You end up having me pay. That's what Drew says this constantly, where we'll be out and there'll be a group of like 8 or 10 people, and Drew will always be like, yeah, we'll grab this. Hey, I forgot my wallet. Jonathan, you got your card?
Convenient.
Who's smart now?
But I always say to Drew, so when we are going to an outing, I always say to Drew before we go, don't offer to pay for everybody. If you're going out with 1 or 2 people, hey, that's one thing. But to take, a football team of people that we don't know and pay?
Well, I when I'm going out, I like to pay sometimes, but I don't ever like to be expected to pay.
Yeah.
Well, here's a stat. 64% of men believe women should pick up the check from time to time, but 76% of them say they feel guilty saying so.
And that's accurate, I think. I mean, I can appreciate that.
I think it's okay. I mean, especially if it's not the very first date. I think it's okay if they want to take you out and do something, they can pay for it too.
I thought this was an interesting one. 44% of women were annoyed when men expected women to pay.
When men expected women to pay, so they don't want to pay.
So they're called gold diggers.
Those ones.
So 44% of the world are gold diggers.
There's a good chance.
The last few dates that I've gone on, it's been like pulling teeth to try and pay for the meal. The girl has wanted to pay for her own share, and I'm fine with that. Like, I don't mind, but I don't think that you should think that I'm disrespecting you by offering to pay. I invited you out. I think if I want to pay, I wouldn't pay if I couldn't pay.
And it's kind of funny with that too. When people are fighting and say, "No, I will take this check," and they don't want to let you do it. I think honestly, if you show interest in paying and say, "No, you don't have to do that. I'll take this," and then the person says, "I'll handle it. Don't worry about it. Let it go."
I have a stat for you. 100% of this man would love to have you pay. So if somebody wants to buy me a meal, that's fine.
The proposition is out there. Go to his Twitter page, Mr. Silver Scott.
Well, what do you think of this? Okay, maybe instead it should always be expected that people go Dutch.
I don't like that. It gets annoying. I find it so annoying. Oh, let's see the check. Well, you had this. I had this. Oh, well, hold on a second. What's the tip on this half of that? And where's your calculator?
It's annoying if you use that voice when you do it.
No, I just I'll pay, and if you want to take me out one time and pay, that's fine. I mean, there are other things I get more annoyed about on dates than just the paying side of things, like people who give too much information on a first date. I think some people are giving way too much information on a first date. Or sharing past experiences.
So would you rather that they give you the bill or they give you the information?
Maybe I'll take the bill if it's appropriate information.
I like finding out the information. I don't get all caught up over the cost of a meal or any of that stuff. I just want to learn about who the person is. And if this is especially a first date, there's so much that you're learning about that you shouldn't get all caught up in the bill.
Well, that's because you don't get caught up. You get so drunk that you're the embarrassing guy in the crowd that does other things to make it an awkward date.
I may have table danced once or twice in my life. But no, I do agree with you. I mean, if people are sharing, if they're oversharing, well, I don't think that's very productive. We've talked about it before, about how there's certain things you're not supposed to talk about. And I always talk about those things.
Well, but the difference is, though, you make it very casual and easy. You don't actually sound desperate when you're talking about these things. But there's the flip opposite to too much information. There's the cold fish people. JD, have you ever been on a date where they don't say anything?
Oh, yeah. There's nothing more annoying when you go out with somebody new who you need to find stuff out about and they don't talk at all. And you're having to drive the entire conversation.
So you don't mind making them pay the bill because they're not contributing?
No, I insist.
This is something that I just think is wrong. I mean, you hear about love at first sight, but we actually, Jonathan and I had a friend who went on a date with another friend of ours, and we were trying to hook them up because we thought they'd be a good match. But our buddy said to the girl at the end of the first date, "Baby, I think I love you." And he was dead serious. And the other friend came to us and said, "Guys, what the hell is with your creepy friend? He told me he loves me at the end of the date." So we brought it up to our buddy, and he's like, "Oh, I was just joking. It was totally just a joke," but it wasn't.
No, he thought he was impressing her, but he's not. You're not. I don't think if you're going on a date and you feel like you have to impress somebody, no matter what you're doing, whether you're telling them you love them on the first date, it's kind of creepy. Whether you're pretending to be somebody else, whether you're buying, if you're picking up the check and basically flaunting the fact that, hey, I do well, baby, I can pay for this. I don't think that you should be dating, period.
These are all games, and if people stayed a little away from games and just were themselves on dates, I think there'd be a lot more success in that world.
That's exactly it. I don't need to go to a bar and have some sort of a pretentious date talking about what do you do? What do I do? Why don't we go karaokeing? Why don't we just go do something fun and different? I took a first date trapezing, which is not something you would think of doing, but it was a blast.
Okay, so do you when you do something like trapezing, because that costs a couple $100, do you expect the date to pay for that?
Go Dutch. No, of course. If I'm treating someone to something like that, I would expect to pay for that because this is my idea.
I have an interesting philosophy, or maybe a new trend that will start. Traditionally, men paid for the dinner for the women. So what if moving forward, starting right now, 2013, what if women now pay for everything moving forward?
That is not going to fly. I can
Yeah.
But okay, I mean, end of story. Like, do you think going forward this will change? I honestly, myself, I don't see this changing in the near future.
I think it should, though, too, because a lot of women make more money than men now, and I think a lot of women are more confident approaching men about dates, so I think that's something that can change.
I figure we should just all relax a little. Let's not get stuck in tradition that the guy has to pay. Let's not, be taking offense if the girl wants to pay. Let's just enjoy each other.
I couldn't agree more, but it's probably not going to change in the near future. So
I agree.
Next up, we're going to be talking about plastic surgery. You won't believe what this plastic surgeon did to his wife.
Oh, it's awful.
Don't forget to catch us on social media. Drew is Mr. Drew Scott. Jonathan is Mr. Silver Scott. And I'm Mr. JD Scott. Our website is thescottbrothers.com. We're off topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
It's Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
Hey, I'm Drew Scott.
I am Jonathan Scott.
And I'm JD Scott.
Plastic surgery, we all know what it is. People like to look pretty. They want to keep that youthful glow. This is sort of an odd story. Okay, I was reading this online. We have this plastic surgeon had a lady come in, and she was coming in for what's called vaginoplasty. I think it's how you pronounce it.
Vaginoplasty?
Vaginoplasty? I don't even know.
I don't even know what that is.
It's when you're trying to make your vagina look pretty. I did this a while ago to my own vagina.
What are you, a vagina? Who?
Well,
what is
no,
the point of that? You a vagina
sorry.
model?
Yeah, well, you never know. Maybe when you're performing with your partner, you want to have it look pretty. But anyway, that's not the point here. This lady came in.
I think it is the point. I think we need to talk about why would somebody reconstruct their vagina? I don't understand.
Jonathan, are you a little disappointed that your vagina isn't looking its best these days?
Why do you keep saying that we have vaginas? That's just weird.
Well, this doctor could fix it. So this lady came in for consultation to have her vaginoplasty, or however you say it, and he ended up saying to her, "You know what? I think you really need the Superwoman treatment." And that means that she was going to get a nip, tuck, clip, tidy, tighten, whatever the heck. Every part of her body was being fixed up. He's basically transforming her into a Barbie doll. And she agreed to do it, and several surgeries later, they got married.
So if the surgeries didn't turn out, would he have dumped her? Or I don't understand.
Well, how long do you think this relationship's going to last? If he basically just molded her into what he thinks is the ideal woman and then married her for it?
Well, it might last forever then.
Well, I kind of wonder, how insecure as a person would you have to be to allow somebody else to... You know, when you start dating somebody and people say, oh, well, he's trying to change me. Usually they just mean on the inside. But literally, this guy is physically trying to change her.
Yes.
It's just weird.
No, not trying. He did physically
he
change
did.
her.
Are they still married? Does it say they're still married?
I didn't get that information in this, but I mean, when I'm thinking about it, she's doing all these changes. Is she insecure with herself in every aspect of her physical appearance? Like, why would you do that? Like, nobody needs that. I can understand if somebody wants to, if somebody after having kids wants to have, a boob job done. Or some people, as they're getting a little older, maybe they want a little Botox. It's up to you. But your entire body, every aspect of it changed?
I'm not opposed to having a little nip and tuck later on, but I think people become obsessed with this. They get things done. I have known 21-year-olds that have gone and got Botox. There is no 21-year-old on this planet that needs to inject their face with poison.
I want you all to know that Jonathan stated it here first. He will get a nip and tuck one day.
Okay, here's
not
what
opposed.
This is what I'm wondering here, and this is devil's advocate. How did it turn out? Did she actually look good afterwards? Like, we're assuming that it was bizarre and that it turned out poorly, but maybe she looked better.
The master of plastic surgery that did this masterpiece married her afterwards. So I'm taking it did turn out. He married the Frankenstein.
Maybe he was trying to avoid a lawsuit. That's why he married her, because he'd done all this work. Like, you've seen some of the people that like turn out like the Catwoman and stuff like that. Like people that have a lot of people who have excessive amounts of plastic surgery, especially on their face, I find that they look like that, and it's not an improvement.
I'm not gonna lie, that's what I was picturing in my head when we were talking about this, was the cat lady. But maybe this was good.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about Halle Berry as the Catwoman. I was talking about Google it, cat lady. Well, this is what I think is important. I think our little flaws are characteristics that I think make us sexy and that make us unique. So why do you have to just airbrush in real life your whole face?
Well, that's the thing too with society, with what you see in magazines and on TV. In the film and TV industry, people think that they have to look a certain way. A lot of women feel they have to keep themselves looking young, and this is what happens. But look at Amanda Bynes as a prime example. Amanda Bynes was beautiful. I thought she was gorgeous, and she has had so much work done. She looks like a completely different person. She doesn't even look like a person. She literally looks plastic.
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe all that Botox leached into her brain.
Yeah, I think that was more the concern with Amanda Bynes, is she went crazy.
And that's the thing, going back to this doctor who was molding this woman to be his perfect wife. It is creepy. And if you remember, isn't that what Liberace did with his boyfriend? Remember that he had that boyfriend that he paid for all these plastic surgeries to make the boyfriend look like him.
Oh, Matt Damon?
Yeah. You saw the movie. No. I haven't even seen the movie yet. Maybe that's what it's about. But having all these plastic surgeries to make somebody look like your ideal woman, that's one thing. Having them look like yourself, so you're dating yourself, that's even weirder.
Jonathan just got excited about the thought of that. No, my thing here is the fact that, the person doing the surgery, how insecure are you about the different things you dislike with your body? And do you really think that changing that is going to give you all this confidence? I don't think it does. I think a lot of people do it for the wrong reason. They have all this work done. In the end, they're just as insecure about certain things as they were before, but now you've physically augmented your body.
I have said this for years. You can't go into a relationship looking to change things about the person that you love or care about. Like, if you want to change everything about them, then that's not the person you should be with.
No, and I've said that for a long time too, that nobody's going to change unless they want to, and it's absolutely true. So, I mean, on the outside, nobody's going to physically change unless, I guess, they can afford to, and you're a plastic surgeon and you're going to make them look like what you want. But
I just don't think it's appropriate. And if you're changing everything in your body, what about infection or loss of sensitivity in certain areas? You literally are turning yourself into a Barbie doll. And this is the same for men. There are so many men out there that I've seen have done a lot of work. I mean, you see Kenny Rogers has done a lot of work.
No. When you go and you buy like the Barbie and Ken dolls and stuff like that, and you see how they're plasticky in it, he's looking plasticky, but with the gray beard.
Stallone, he's done a little bit.
Way too much. I don't know. Anybody you look at who you can tell there's a point where they've had too much.
So here's my final question for you guys. You have a girlfriend, you get married. Would you buy her a boob job?
If she wanted it, sure.
I would tell her specifically she's not to do it for me, because I don't think that boobs make the woman. If it was something that helped her fill out her clothes better or she felt more comfortable, okay, but I don't want anybody doing any plastic surgery for me.
Exactly. They have to do it for themselves and for nobody else. Next, I want to know what the weirdest thing is that you've ever stolen from a hotel. Wait until I tell you what JD stole from a hotel one time. Hit us up on Twitter, at Mr. Drew Scott, at Mr. Silver Scott, at Mr. JD Scott, or on our website, thescottbrothers.com. This is Off Topic on Corus Radio.
It's Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network.
Hey, this is Jonathan Scott.
This is Drew Scott.
And this is JD Scott.
Now, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. However, we alluded to the fact that possibly there was something at some point that JD had stolen from a hotel room. And it was an interesting thing because I read an article on this too. It is amazing how much stuff people steal and the bizarre stuff. But before we get into that, tell me what it was that you took, and I won't tell your mother.
Okay. I mean, let me start this with, this was a long time ago.
2 weeks ago.
No, much longer. Anyhow, I had been, I was pretty new to have my own place, and our shower head broke. And I happened to be away on a trip of some sort, and we were at a hotel. And so before I left that hotel, I actually took the shower head from the bathroom.
I disown you as my brother.
Look, it was a functional theft.
So how desperate were you? I mean, couldn't you get a new shower head for like $10?
Oh, when you're a teenager, $10 is a lot.
Well, did the hotel catch you after the fact? And
No.
But that's the thing. They have your credit card info, and so
Did they?
Well,
I don't know. Maybe
he was a teenager.
Was it a motel? They didn't need a credit card? You were paying by
Do
the
you
hour?
want the shower head from a motel?
Okay, this is an interesting thing that I wanted to discuss because I was reading up on it, and hotels have stated the amount of loss that they take because of people that steal from them. And I want to put the question out there. I want to put the question out to the listening audience too. And you tell us through social media. I'm Jonathan. My handle is at Mr. Silver Scott. Drew is at Mr. Drew Scott. And JD is at Mr. JD Scott. Tell us if you think it is okay to steal from a hotel room, and what is the weirdest thing that you've ever stolen from a hotel room? We know what JD's was. Drew, have you ever stolen from a hotel?
No. Well, I mean, toiletry type stuff or pen and pad, but that's not stealing. They let you take those things. And now they don't let you take towels or anything like that.
Actually, most hotels will let you take the towels.
They'll just charge you.
They'll charge you for it. And they charge an exorbitant fee, so I don't recommend that you do steal the towels. But that was one of the ones they listed as the most stolen item. People sneak off with that.
That's an interesting fact, actually. These days, I believe that you can purchase almost anything that is in your hotel room, even the art that's on the walls.
Well, I know that Sheraton's, for example, they sell the bed, the Sweet Sleeper bed that they have, but it was also reported that I can't remember which hotel chain it was. However, they said that they had on average 3 beds stolen a year.
Yeah.
How does that even happen?
How do you walk out of a hotel with a bed?
No, I brought this with me.
Yeah, or think of in all the hotels that you've stayed in, all the window dressings, they're usually pretty cheesy. They're not, even in nice hotels, they're pretty cheesy. But that was another item that I saw, people stealing the curtains from in their hotel room.
I almost feel like this has to be a statistic that's skewed because these are happening in motels. I don't know if it could, like, can you picture a high-rise tower, somebody walking down with a bed or shower curtains?
Maybe in a motor inn.
Something like that. A weird one was also the batteries. People apparently all the time steal the batteries from the remote controls.
Well, that's why you see those remotes now they're like screwed in.
Yeah.
You can't actually take the batteries.
But what about when you go into a hotel and the remote's missing? Like, why would you take a remote if you leave the TV?
Because they're probably universal.
And a lot of those though are tied in specifically to like the LodgeNet system or something. You can't use them at home. But so I think that people are just there's kleptomaniacs. We know there's people that are just stealing stuff for the sake of stealing it. But the biggest issue that I have, I couldn't believe this. This was on the top 10 list of most stolen items. The Bible. People steal the Bible from the hotel room.
That is ironic.
It is. I feel like there was maybe the 8th commandment that said, "Thou shalt not steal." And if you look at the fine print, it says
the Bible.
The friggin' Bible from the motel room.
I mean, they give Bibles out nowadays. Why would you ever steal a Bible? Why would you need to read the Bible that bad to steal it?
You're trying to fast track your way to hell. That's what it is.
Right. Maybe that's the plan.
I don't know what it is. But another interesting thing would be is not necessarily what you're taking from the hotel room, but what you're leaving behind. There was a Dateline series where they would go through hotels and they would scan it with a black light.
Oh, disgusting.
Do you want me to tell you what they found?
Yes.
No, I think I know what was on there. Think of the number of people who use that room. But that's why when I'm in a hotel, on top of the comforter, I'm all clothed. I'm not going on that comforter in my boxers or anything like that. That's disgusting.
Well, that's the thing is they wash the sheets. They wash the towels and the pillowcase. Do they wash the comforter every time?
I don't think so.
I don't think they do.
Nor do they wash all the towels, like the floor towel in the bathroom. I saw a thing that they don't actually wash that every time.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. Or people that walk around barefoot in the hallways. It's the same when you're traveling anywhere, but you're walking around barefoot in public areas. That disgusts me.
Well, I remember watching that show, the Dateline show, and an interesting fact was it wasn't the lower end motels or hotels that were the worst. It was actually some of the larger chains.
I actually looked at the list of the ones they were saying, and I had actually stayed at 2 of the actual hotels that were in that, and it left me with a complex. That's why I understand, like guys like Howie Mandel. Howie Mandel has this quirk where in his hotel rooms he lays towels all the way across the floor of his walking path from his bed to the bathroom to everything because he does not want to touch the carpet in those rooms. That's a little excessive. However, I can understand it because I saw the black light and what was showing up. And, you know, everything from people having pets in the room, too, and the pets go to the bathroom on the carpet, and all they do is sort of wipe it up, but they don't really clean the carpet.
I may start doing that with my hotel rooms. I mean, right now, I have a hotel room that I'm staying in, and there were Smarties underneath the cushion of the couch and under the table. So you know they didn't do a great job cleaning.
No. Well, and most of the time, I think if you do have things where you break something, soil something, they're going to charge you a fee if they have your credit card. Apparently, JD, they didn't have your credit card.
Do you soil your hotel quite often?
No, I'm a very good hotel. I don't steal anything from the hotel. I mean, sometimes I'll take some toiletries, but now, especially having read the stat that one woman, a Nigerian woman, she went to prison for 3 months for stealing 2 towels. The hotel took her to court, and they won.
That seems excessive.
It's very excessive.
How long would I be in jail for that?
A shower head? Yeah. Did you take a bed with that shower head? That would be my concern.
That was a felony. Yeah.
I don't know. I think moving forward, can we all agree we won't steal anything from hotels?
Agreed.
I'm still taking toiletries, but that's not stealing.
That's fine. I agree with that. And I think this concludes the second edition of Off Topic. We made it through that, had a lot of fun. We'll continue to have fun next week, and we'll talk about a whole plethora of things. But I want to say, send us your questions, send us your comments, things you want us to talk about through thescottbrothers.com, social media, at Mr. JD Scott, at Mr. Drew Scott, and at Mr. Silver Scott. We are the Scott Brothers. This is Off Topic, and you're on the Corus Radio Network.
You've been listening to Off Topic with the Scott Brothers on the Corus Radio Network. Want more of the Scotts? Check them out on TV. Catch the Property Brothers and Buying and Selling on W, a Corus Entertainment company.